Hello, this is the Argon 40 box with a Raspberry Pi inside it. So let's have a look at what it's got around the back. Here we have two HDMI ports, full size. Now, if you've only got one cable, it doesn't matter which one of these you use. The only thing you do have to do is make sure the cable's plugged in before you switch the Raspberry Pi on. The Pi is not very intelligent because it's only when it's turned on, the very first part, it works out if it's got an HDMI cable attached, and it works out which of these to use. And sure, if you've got two screens, you can have two cables plugged in there and it'll work. But if you don't have one when it's switched on, it'll assume that you're not using any video output. It'll boot quite successfully, and if you plug an HDMI cable in, then it'll completely ignore it. So please make sure you have an HDMI cable connected to this and its screen before you switch the Pi on. Then you have the USB-C port, and that is there for power input. The power supply you plug straight into that. Here you have a 3.5mm audio jack, and you can plug audio devices into that. Now, hopefully the soundbar I provided will actually attach via Bluetooth, so it's wireless. I did try using a cable, and for some reason the volume wasn't very loud on it. It's far better over Bluetooth. Hopefully it'll work and you won't need to use that unless you use some other device. You've got two USB 2 ports, one USB 3 that are actually usable. USB 2 are slower, the USB 3 is faster, and notice the USB 3 is blue, USB 2 is black, or anything other than blue, to be honest. Sometimes it's white. These are fine for plugging keyboards, mouse, and even joystick controllers into. You only need to use a high-speed port for lots of data. Now, as it happens, this particular setup has a solid-state hard drive in the bottom here, and that contains everything. Basically, it boots from that, it runs the operating system, it's got all the games on it, and it does need a fast throughput. So that communicates with the Pi through this adapter. So unfortunately you use one USB 3 port on the Pi basically for the hard disk drive. And this is for a wired Ethernet connection. Fine if you're wired into your router. If that can't be done, then it'll connect over Wi-Fi. Now, hopefully this has been configured to connect to your Wi-Fi anyway, so you shouldn't need that. And that is the power switch. Here we have this particular, I don't know what you call this, flap, whatever. Now it covers what's called the 40-pin GPIO, and you need to be really nerdy or geeky in order to use that. So basically, just keep that on. Now this box is mine, and that actually is free to come off. It's magnetic, so that it sticks quite happily. This is the one I've actually configured for you, and I've actually taped that up so it shouldn't come off. There's no harm in it coming off. If you don't like the tape, take it off. It's entirely up to you, but at least you won't lose this bit. But if you do lose it, everything will still work. Now, the top part of this case is aluminium, and that's very deliberate because inside it's got two pieces of aluminium that actually go down and come into contact with the Raspberry Pi itself, particularly the processor and another particular chip that they both get very hot. So this conducts the heat away from that and helps keep the Pi cool. So the case will get quite warm. On top of that, there is a fan inside, and if the Pi actually gets to 55 degrees C, the fan will start to operate, and if it gets to 65 degrees, the fan will work flat out. Now, it blows the hot air out here, which in turn makes its way out here, and it draws cooler air in through these ports here. So do not cover this up. If you do that, then the Pi will get very hot and it might even die. So that's about it for the Argon case and the Pi itself. I'll produce other videos on how to use it.